YouTube live streaming, also known as YouTube Live, is an easy way that your business can reach your target audience in real time. Diana Gladney has been a YouTube streamer for over 4 years, and she helps entrepreneurs simplify the video creation process. On this episode, Jim Fuhs and I will talk with her about how you can use YouTube to go live. So, Jim, I know we have a great guest on this week's episode. I think this is episode 33 of the Launch Your Live podcast. And I know we've talked a lot about the process for setting up live, why you should be using live, the types of live shows that you can create for your business. But I know on this episode, we want to delve into YouTube Live. And I think a lot of people maybe consider Facebook maybe as, what is actually going live. They might not actually think about YouTube. Isn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other big thing that people forget, and I know Diana's going to talk about some of this, is YouTube is actually the second biggest search engine after Google. And oh, by the way, it's owned by Google. And 92% of people search for a solution to their problem through Google before they go to things like Facebook. I mean, even when you think of how people behave, they don't sit there and like go in Facebook and search for things. But how many times do we sit there and search for a video that tells us how to do something? And so, where live can be great is you're really getting a chance to build a community, and YouTube keeps coming out with new things. Definitely something for a business owner to get. But let's get Diana on here because she's an amazing young lady. At least I think she's young, and I've been very impressed getting to know her. And she took over Ecamm's channel one week, and that was really eye-opening, a lot of the things that she did. So Diana, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. It's such an honor to be here.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah. So Diana, we always like to know people's stories. So tell us what got you started in this crazy world of YouTube where you're now, looked at as one of the top as far as I know, one of the top women, if not beyond, just in general, people on YouTube, and people come to you all the time for advice. What got you started in live streaming? I mean, it just, because I think even when you listen to your story, it's not something that you would necessarily think that Diana Gladney would be like this live streamer.
Right. It's very interesting because I did not post like the first several videos on a YouTube channel back in 2016 with the intent of having a YouTube channel. It literally was just to host videos on my website because YouTube is free. They don't have any limits for how much content that you can upload or how long you can upload. And so when I hired my first coach, he told me I needed to get started in video, and I kind of, we're on the phone, and I'm kind of still looking at him sideways, even though we're on the phone. And I'm like, clearly, you don't know who I am. I don't take pictures. I don't, have like where I'm worried about the camera on my phone and take selfies. I thought selfie sticks were stupid. And I'm like, what the heck is, all of this stuff? But so like that was not my jam. But back in June of 2016, I got started doing my first video because that same coach was like, if you're going to have a business, your business needs to have a voice. Podcasts are great. We're on a podcast right now. It's great to have a blog and all these great things and have a website, and you should have those different components and mediums, but video is absolutely the way to do it. And he told me right then and there, you need to start doing video. So that was that first initial thing. But what initially got me started was that initial push from my coach was to be visible and get more exposure using just video as that medium that did other things that blogs can't do, your website can't do for you, that even though people have long-term listenerships for podcasts, even those still don't have the components that, live video and just regular recorded video has. And so that was that initial push.
Wow. I mean, so did you feel like you had to overcome that fear of being on video? Was that I mean, because I can imagine that face too. Because I know even for me, at first I was like, well, why would I want to go live on video?
Yeah.
I mean, it's yeah, and I agree with you too. The selfie sticks. I mean, I still don't use them. I mean, I
Right.
have to force myself to take those pictures. I mean, Christian, you've been on live for a while too. Is that something that you were comfortable with, or?
I think I was actually, and I think part of it though is it comes down to like sort of your background, I guess. I was used to being in front of people. And
Mhm.
so I thought that using live made a lot of sense. Now, I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of people for live video, whether it's YouTube Live, Facebook Live, it really doesn't matter which platform. I think it's the fact that you're broadcasting to essentially an empty room. And for a lot of people, that can be uh, very tough, to deal with because, you're doing it and it's like, well, is this actually worth my time? Oh, well, there's no one here. How do I keep myself going, keep myself motivated? For a lot of
Mhm.
people, though, that I think is a real struggle there. Um, I didn't have a problem with it, but, you have to think about it like this. I'm broadcasting to people, you know, don't don't expect, I guess, that like, oh, just because I watch a show, someone else's live show, that they're getting a lot of people to tune in as well, because for the most part, maybe they aren't, but maybe they make it seem like they are. So I think, I didn't have a problem with it for sure.
It wasn't my go-to thing. It took a while for me to want to do live video, and at that time, it would have been on my phone. And so you're using the front-facing camera. Those cameras back then were nothing of what, especially if you just had a mid-tier phone or even less than that. It was
Mhm.
not the best experience ever. It was not the best camera ever. You could get lights that weren't all that great. And so we've made a lot of advancements in video that make the tech easier and better to do it now. But back then, it was like really rough. And so,
Yeah.
it's like I was definitely afraid to do it. I always say I had the Whitney Houston lip sweat thing going on. You're nervous, frustrated. You're just like, oh man, I don't know what to do. The stomach is dropping, and you don't know how you look to other people. All you know is how you feel while you're
Mhm.
doing it, even though nobody's in the room, nobody's around. You probably picked a time when everybody left, or you sent them away in the house, so you didn't have to worry about interruptions and stuff like that. But I can remember like my first live stream being to Facebook, and it was just all kinds of horribleness. Like when I finished doing that live stream, I did not have any great feelings. So hopefully, I can give some tips on for people that do go live to not have that same shared experience, which was horrible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, Diana, what do we really mean when we talk about, YouTube Live? I mean, how is it different from, say, Facebook Live or going live, on your Facebook page or in a Facebook group? I mean, why should we care about YouTube Live?
Well, I think the thing, like as entrepreneurs, we have to be uh, aware of how people behave on a platform. So, what are their social behaviors? And even as an entrepreneur, you can step outside of that frame and just really put on your customer or your consumer shoes. How you do Facebook is not the same way that, and the same behaviors that you have when you go to YouTube. And so Facebook and YouTube differ greatly, because if we look at what we are initially thinking when we first log into Facebook, our social behaviors do not suggest that we're going to look for a video from a business or a company. We never care about what Google is doing this week. We never care about what Goodyear is up to this week. Like, we don't care about what updates. If they're sharing something, it's because they paid for exposure and they paid to show up in your news feed, or because you liked that page initially or something like that. And based on how you have notifications set up, like, they're having to interrupt your process, because initially, when most people log into Facebook, what they're doing is trying to connect with their family and their friends. They're trying to see what groups that are specific to their interests, or maybe because they paid for a service or a training and part of that is a Facebook group, then they're trying to get their money's worth by going to participate and see what's what in that group. But initially, when a person just logs in, they're not worried about video or live video. It's an interruption to their social behavior, and they have to now decide, do they want to watch this? And their watch time is nothing compared to YouTube. So when we slide over to the YouTube side of things, at the very top of the bars, like initially how a web page is designed will tell you a lot about how people receive and how they are using that particular page. So when you log into Facebook, what are you seeing? A home page, things that suggest for you to engage with people, a messenger or something like that. If we are going over to YouTube, the very first things that you're seeing at the very top, I don't care if you're on mobile or on your desktop, you're seeing the search bar because they want you to get exactly what you need. When people go to YouTube, their social behaviors is for them to start engaging with something that's a pain point, something they are curious about or want to see. So they're finding you because they're searching for something and maybe you're covering that topic. So it's not an interruption there. There is no group. There is no, I mean, there are some other community things for which we can probably get into later. But if you're live and you're covering a topic or something that they want to discuss, now they're interested. They're coming specifically for a specific thing. When you can start to show up for that using that search feature, that is a huge game changer when we're talking about, people's social engagement and their social behaviors on YouTube Live and versus that of like a Facebook Live.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I love the example, just how you're explaining the interface for when someone logs into Facebook versus logging into YouTube. And it's the thing. I mean, I personally I think that YouTube Live makes the most sense. Because people you're not really so here's the thing. Like when you're on YouTube, somebody goes to YouTube and they're searching for initially they're searching for a video, a tutorial, or how to do something, or a documentary, whatever. So they're going there and they're searching for that, and they find something that's interesting. And then what are they going to do? They're going to subscribe to your channel or they're going to like your video and so forth, and so I'm on YouTube and I see something that really excites me or I'm interested in, at least, they engage me, so then I'm interested in subscribing to them. Well, then, hey, you decide you're going to do YouTube Live. It seems like just a very natural progression because I've already liked your content because, hey, you've done a good job of creating a video that, engages your audience. Now moving into YouTube Live makes a lot of sense. So I think that makes a lot of, I love that example because when you go to Facebook, Facebook's going to be different in the fact that you have to fight against the news feed. For the most part, people aren't thinking, oh, I want to go watch video. That's what YouTube is primarily for. So this next question, I guess, for you is how does YouTube Live really differ from a Facebook Live? Because when people talk YouTube, when they talk live streaming, if they're on Facebook, they're thinking, I hope they're thinking Facebook Live on Facebook. But, how does YouTube Live really differ from a Facebook Live? Are there any, nuances, any certain little, features that are only available on YouTube versus on Facebook? What's your take on that?
I think the way that people choose to engage with the platform tells you a lot about what that platform is built to handle. And so when we're talking about Facebook Live versus a YouTube Live, YouTube is built for when you are going live. This is not going out to your family and friends. This is not going out to anybody other than the people that are searching for that specific topic or that niche or something like that. And you're coming up in search while you're live. And maybe we can talk about later how that kind of works. But it's something about that topic or that niche or that specific genre of content that you're covering that YouTube starts suggesting that out, whether you're live or you're catching the replay after the live is over. And then also they're sharing that out to the people that specifically clicked that they're subscribed to your channel and they want to hear more of what you have to offer. Even though we hit the like button on a page, we're not necessarily saying that we care to always engage with what you're doing. There are so many other distractions and so many other detractors from a Facebook Live type of feed. And so some of the nuances would be, it is no distractions on YouTube unless you distract yourself. So unless you're, maybe got a picture-in-picture or playing in the background and you're still searching for something else or whatever the case, or you're looking at the related videos that are coming up on the sidebar or something, but there aren't any distractions. You're not getting notifications. This person sent you a message. This person is inviting you to like their Facebook page. There are so many other things that are going on on Facebook, those do not happen on YouTube. So if somebody comes, they know we're doing the Friday live, then they know there's no distractions unless you distract yourself. Again, you slide over to Facebook Live, and your primary reason for signing in is distracting you from, let me see what this person is talking about on Facebook. Whereas a business can, and businesses do well when they're talking about live streaming and content there, but you have to fight against those other detractors. And they are also like, you're having the like and the heart button, maybe some more reactions and emojis and stuff like that. But more people are more inclined to watch from people that they know, like, and trust, and people that they love. So if their cousin is showing the gender reveal in the backyard, because we're all, at the time of recording this, we're still dealing with some levels of quarantine. Okay, well, I want to see that gender reveal more than I want to see about, hey, here are some new Instagram changes that you need to know about, because I can watch that later and I can skip through if I want to, because there's something more important that's tugging on my heart than that. And so that's some of the differences when we're talking about, like, nuances. Number one will absolutely have to be the distractions. And then two, it's always an interruption to their initial social behavior on Facebook. And it's not bad, and it's not to say that it can't work or whatever, but we're also talking about watch time, which is not just how many views, because that can be misleading if you're not aware of how to really check your statistics and your data. And you'll see, oh, these many people clicked on it, but at the same time, it's like, it's not super helpful if they're constantly being pulled away in one reason or another. So, there's just some different things about the nuances of how behaviors interact, or interrupt rather, what that person chooses to interact with or not.
I almost want to just drop my mic right now, because Diana, that was amazing. It's funny, I never had really thought about that. So every time I hear something from you, I will say I learned something new. And just the thought that, right, there's no distractions on YouTube unless you choose to be distracted. That's like, you should create a t-shirt. But you're right. With Facebook, there's so many things going on, and even why people come to it. My wife will even say, like, I don't like to watch videos that are more than a minute or two long on Facebook, because I'm just kind of there scrolling and going through. But yeah, YouTube, you're going there with a purpose, and the fact that, yes, if I'm subscribed to your channel, I'm telling YouTube I want to see this, and they're not saying, oh, well, I'm only going to show you some of Diana's stuff. Which Facebook, even if I do want to see it, I'm not always getting to see it. That's an amazing point, and especially for a business, right? If this is where they're trying to educate and engage with their audience, this is what a great way to know that they're really going to see that stuff and not have that I wonder if.
Absolutely. It's interesting. Just this past week, I was going through replying to comments that were happening on some of the videos, and I saw that like, YouTube has this new feature called mentions, where if somebody mentions your channel name about something, then they'll notify you. And I saw that this creator that has 250,000 subscribers, he was showing that he was hanging out with his daughter while she's playing on her tablet. They're sitting back on the couch, and what I saw was my face blown up full screen on the TV, and he was like watching Diana Gladney Entree Woman TV on YouTube while hanging out with my little one. That was like that's massive to me, not because of how many people that person has subscribed to them, but because it lets you know how people's attention is more than just, again, like, attention is the first one we always have to do when it comes to video content, especially live. But knowing that it's enough where somebody can full screen you on YouTube, and that is their sole thing that they're focusing on. Again, when we contrast that on YouTube, not YouTube, but on Facebook Live, nobody does that. And this was a live stream that he was watching from the Friday live stream. And so nobody does that on Facebook, unless you are specifically, like, logged into a group or something like that, where now this needs to dictate and take up more of your attention, and you're taking notes, kind of a thing. But more or less, you specifically logged in because you knew that content was going to be there. Whereas on YouTube, again, you create a pattern, you create a show, you create a system of people being able to trust that you'll be there and show up. They'll do that all on their own. You don't have to, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was huge to me.
Wow. Yeah, that would be amazing to have something like that. I mean, that's something I guess I didn't realize that they had started this whole mention feature, and that's a great way for people to well, and I mean, I think that's the thing too, right? You can engage on YouTube. It's just I think people don't always think of it
Mm,
in the sense of being social, but that's another thing that YouTube's really been doing a lot of is this whole community building. And
hmm.
I think but you got to get the subscribers to really be able to get that community going.
Yep.
And you need the as far as the mentions feature goes, you do have to have, here's the thing: if you don't have the subscribers, that feature will not work for you either. So that's a little interesting one, I guess, in a way. Like, you can't mention somebody if your channel doesn't have the a lot of number of subscribers to unlock the feature. But it would be nice to be able to mention people. I mean, I think anyone should be able to mention anyone, regardless of if they have a certain number of channels or not, or subscribers or not.
So I think now I could be wrong with this, but when it comes to that specific feature, I've been able to tag other people's channel that didn't have a certain number of subscriberships. So I don't know if it's like the person that is initiating the tag has to have a certain number or what have you, but the community tab is more or less where that's coming in, where that's
Right.
a factor more or less, or the stories. So I think it's more like based around the community tab and being able to do it that way, because you can always, add somebody even in a comment and it'll show them, and it'll notify me. But I think far as like you getting that community tab, you do need to have like 1,000 subscribers to have
Yeah.
that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah, and the mentions feature. Yeah, so for example, I can mention your channel, for example, because I have over 1,000 subscribers on my channels. But if I'm on someone that doesn't have the 1,000, they can't, for example, put them in the title, the description,
Mm,
and whatnot. Like, you have to have the 1,000 subscribers to be able to do that, which is
gotcha.
kind of interesting. I,
Yeah.
I kind of think that, like, hey, if they want to build community, they should allow everyone to mention another channel, for example. So I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic, I guess, that way.
Yeah.
So as far as YouTube Live, I mean, we talked about, the differences between YouTube Live and Facebook Live, but why should somebody go live on YouTube? I mean, if I'm a business, I mean, I've got a lot of stuff on my plate. I mean, what are are there a couple of key points you want to mention there, about why someone should go live on YouTube or attempt to go live?
Well, the thing is, like, as an entrepreneur, it's like you have to, one, know when you are creating content, what is the success rate of that as far as the discoverability. And I don't think that there is anything else that hits on discoverability like YouTube does. Even if you could have 1 million people that like your Facebook page, you're still going to run into the same challenges as anybody else with a Facebook page. And so, furthermore, if you're paying for discoverability, which you can still pay for ads and you can pay for other things to get you more exposure on YouTube, but the difference is the willingness to discoverability. Now on YouTube, again, that top feature, that number one thing that you're going to see that is like it is meant to grab your attention is the search bar. The difference is if you own an RV company, for example, and you are creating content for not just people to come and buy and say, hey, we're located at such and such off the highway at exit 266 or whatever. It's not about that. It's about saying, here's the difference between this model and that model. And here's why most people that have a family under 4 go with this one. And here's why people with a family over 4 or more people are going to be in the RV are going over here. The value that video content creates, you can literally make that same one on Facebook. But again, it's an interruptive pattern for them to watch that video, and people's social behavior is not for them to watch long form content. And I mean long form comparative to Facebook especially can be over 5 minutes, because that is about as long as you're going to get for most people. Whereas on YouTube, you're looking at something that is double that, if not more. Furthermore, you don't have evergreen content. When you do a live stream on Facebook, it's there, and then at some point it'll get buried and they won't see it, and they specifically aren't searching for it unless it was something that they needed, that you mentioned or you talked about, that makes them want to go find that video. I had that happen to me where it was this one specific company. I remember them saying something, and I'm like, I had to dig. It was the worst experience ever. Not because I'm the YouTube advocate or something, but literally just a person looking for information that I know they talk, it was horrific. It took me 2 days, and I'm not kidding. It took me 2 days before I was able to dig through the videos tab and find it to get to it. And that was a live streamed video. Whereas on YouTube, not only do you have the overall channel, like you can search on for content in general. So if you're this RV owner, if somebody's looking for a comparison, they're trying to figure out what tires should they buy. They're trying to figure out what best place they should go to for servicing their RV or whatever the case is. You're going to get a better return on your investment of your time that you're already committing anyway for content creation, because there is a willingness for discoverability on YouTube. Furthermore, that search feature that is not available on Facebook is available on YouTube. So you can go to somebody's specific channel and there is a search bar for that channel. Anything that mentions it or relates to that specific search phrase or word that you're putting in there, it will come up for that channel. So it makes it easier for people to digest your information. And YouTube is more a platform for evergreen content. You can do a search like I've done with clients, and we'll be comparing and seeing where they can fit in and come in and search and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is a topic that's waiting to be refreshed, because the search results come from videos that are 2 and 3 years old and then 5 and 6 years old. So, that evergreen content is still getting views to this day that people created 6 years ago. That doesn't exist. And that's even if it's a live stream video.
That's really, amazing when you think about it. And it's funny because, I've really started to dig into YouTube a lot more over the last year. And I noticed like some of the channels I follow, they'll literally put a video out that's 5 to 10 minutes. And in like less than 24 hours, they have tens of thousands, if not more views. You don't
Hmm.
really see that happen on Facebook, even with people that we know are extremely popular. They're just not getting that kind of return on their time.
Yep.
I think that's a great point, by the way, about trying to find stuff, for example, on Facebook. I'll tell you, for example, the other day, and this isn't even just a live video. A friend of mine puts out, a post every Monday, and it's like, well, hey, what are your big wins for the week? And I saw it, and I left, and I did something else, and I went to go back to it, and I literally could not find it. And it was the day of that it was posted. I was going through their page. I was trying to search. I was like, well, why am I not finding this? And what I literally had to do was message my friend. I was like, hey, I just saw your, post that you just put up, but I'm like, I can't find it. And they were able to quickly send me a link because they knew exactly, obviously they could see exactly what they had, but I couldn't find it. It was really strange. And that's one unfortunate side to Facebook is that it's hard to find content. People go there, and they're not, like you said, they're not looking just for live video. And even though Facebook has, tried to make live video a little more prominent, it's still not top of mind for a lot of people. So as a business, if you're creating content, I personally think they should be using YouTube. I think they should be using YouTube and should have been using YouTube for years, because, one thing YouTube has done, even though Google got into search with Google Plus, for those who don't know Google Plus, it was a
Right.
Google launched. I think it's been a few years since it's been gone, but you got a lot more out of it because YouTube had a very specific purpose versus Facebook is trying to be a jack of all trades
Right.
to everyone. And, and it's hard to actually surface a lot of that content.
Mhm.
Okay. So next question for you, I guess, is, so we talked about why you should go live on YouTube, but is there a reason you should not go live on YouTube? Because I know Jem and I are both really pro YouTube. I know you're pro YouTube, but are there any reasons you can think of why you should not go live on YouTube, or why a business should not go live on YouTube?
If your primary reason to go live on YouTube initially, especially when you haven't built an audience, you're not currently, which I think all of us are, building a deeper relationship with your audience. If you don't have any specific purpose behind what you're doing, you're just kind of doing it just for the sake of doing it, even though you're doing it quote unquote for your business, you're wasting your time. So there are absolutely times when I would suggest that's not worthy of going live, simply because it's you're wasting your time. If you're just trying to sell something and all it is one big advertisement, you're wasting your time. So it's like those things, like I think it's more about the motive behind the why you're going live. And that people can read you from a mile away. And even though it is online and you can try to be as personable as possible, people will be able to read you left from right if that is all that you are there to do, is to push your products and services on them. They didn't come there for that. So if you do not have an intentions around building a community, building a deeper relationship with your community, yes, exposing them to your products and services and why they may or may not be best for them, and then also to provide value. If you're not having those reasons as to why you're going live, then you shouldn't be going live. And that's probably the same thing I would say on Facebook as well. But yeah, that's one of the core reasons on YouTube, because there are a few ways that you can actively communicate and directly talk to your people. And number one on YouTube being that in a real-time kind of a experience is going to be that live stream. And so if you are not, you're more about being self-serving versus service-centered, then don't bother wasting your time on YouTube Live.
Wow, great points. And so a final question would be, what are some tips though for people to get started with YouTube as a business? I mean, a lot of them are probably like, I don't even know where to start. I mean, obviously they could contact you, but if they're not ready to make that investment, what's some other great ways for them to get started?
I think you can always get started with where you are, with who you are, and what you have right now. I think we create these just ridiculous requirements that people should have, and literally the phone that people have, like we just had the new iPhone come out, Google just released a new phone, like the cameras on these freaking devices are insane. And the fact that now you have software tools like Filmic Pro that will let you have clean HDMI coming out of the phone to take the icons off the screen, so you're getting that amazing, full HD or 4K video quality out of your phone. Like we have no excuses anymore. So it's really just about somebody getting started. What would you need, or what should you have to get started? Really, I think the most important thing is going to be a good microphone system. And so you can get a good microphone like I'm using right now. It runs from anywhere from like $50 to $70. There are tons of USB and XLR audio sources, so you can plug it right into your phone, plug it right into your computer or what have you, and you're good to go. And beyond that, the camera that you're using, you can start with your phone. You can invest in a regular camera if that's something you decide you want to get into. But as far as the requirements, I think we just kind of create these bubbles, these invisible bubbles that are barriers that honestly just kind of keep us from moving forward, simply because we're, now experiencing some levels of fear around it. And so it really doesn't take much for you to get started, other than just to hit the go live button.
And Diana, would you say that when you're coming up with your channel name, I mean, are there things too? I mean, to your point, do we overthink it sometimes? I mean, should we just like the channel is the name of our business or our brand, as opposed to getting like all like keyword stuffy, like we think that that's going to make people find our channel?
I think we need to make it easy for people to find our channel. I think sometimes we get too entrepreneurial instead of just being personable. If I didn't have my channel have some association with my name, EntreWoman TV is a brand name that I made up that's important to me. Otherwise, it's a made up word that you'll never find in the dictionary. But you can find Diana Gladney everywhere, from business card to online to wherever. Like, you can find that there. And so I included my name because you aren't going to remember EntreWoman TV. You're probably not going to remember how to pronounce it. So it's like, but people will remember at least my name. And that's in enough video content, interviews, or whatever, that you're going to see me show up. And so I made it that way so that it's easy for people. So if you're an entrepreneur, maybe you have bluetires.com. I don't go there because I don't know who it belongs to. But if you own like a tire shop, and that's something, make it easy for people to find you. So yeah, you could say this is bluetires.com with Jim and Chris, or with your first and last name. So that either way, whether they're searching for your brand or whether they're searching for your name, that people are able to find you. So yes, maybe have the brand, but you're also, like, the brand always has a personality. That's why brands like Progressive are doing amazing jobs, because they have flow. If you don't like Progressive, or if you didn't know who they were, they make it very, very easy to remember and to have a personality, some kind of vibe associated with the brand by creating a fake person called Flo. So you know her face, you know what her hair looks like, you know her personality and stuff like that. So your channel also has to have that as well. More or less that being you or somebody that's going to be the personality for the channel. So I wouldn't say hide behind your logo, hide, like, still, yeah, you need to show up as well as your brand information. So if you're naming your channel, I will always recommend you can have it, the channel's name or the company's name being your company, and it's like with your first and last name or something like that. So however they search, they're able to find you.
Great points.
I think Jim and I thought we're thinking alike there. I mean, so, and I have one. I also have just one quick question, I guess, and it's regarding strategy, because you mentioned this earlier. You mentioned how if somebody is just going to post a video, for example, and they really don't have the audience, or they don't have, I'd say, a strategy really. Jim and I always talk about how it's important to have a strategy. And so I don't know if you have any tips to help people who don't have a strategy, who kind of just started. I mean, it's great they started making videos, but you do need to have a strategy. Do you have any tips that you could share with listeners or viewers?
Yeah. And so, like, to give some people some relief, I think that you can start to understand how you can marry the marketing and exposure of your business to your already existing business plan. You already have some type of advertising and marketing structure and budget and things like that. You now are just incorporating and you're sharing that with YouTube. If you can put your mindset around that, then that can start to help people a lot with how they can start gaining exposure. And if you look on your website, more often than not, you have a frequently asked questions page. If you type any of those questions or somewhere about those phrases into YouTube, you are seeing results. Is your company coming up as one of those results? If the answer is no, you need to now realize that that's a video topic that you can start creating content on. If there is a follow-up question to, like, what's the best tire for RV model X, Y, and whatever, it's something popular. Okay, fantastic. Here's the tire that you can say, like, these are great for this. You probably shouldn't buy these if you're in this kind of climate. These are not winter tires. These are not going to be great for this, but these are otherwise great, all-purpose tires for these kind of environments. And if you are looking for a winter performance tire, if you're going to be in maybe colder areas, click on the next video. I'm actually going to talk about 3 different tires that I would suggest to people that come in the store that you can, like, we are already answering these questions in our business. When people walk in the door or they're hitting up your chat or your customer service email account, they're already asking questions. Now you can start pulling that data that you already have and start literally entering those in YouTube and start seeing, like, take yourself out of the seat of the creator and the entrepreneur and put yourself on the side of the person that's on the keyboard, because that is who YouTube is creating content and they're structuring their algorithms around to best serve the person that's searching on the keyboard, not the creator. So if you can put yourself in those shoes, even if they describe it wrong or they say what's the best winter tires for an RV, don't try to correct them in making your title more scientifically correct or more branched, but just say what they are saying and make your video topics around that. So even when you're live streaming, guess what? They now come to you as a trusted resource as covering that content because you're the person that is speaking to their pain points. So anytime you're talking about creating content as an entrepreneur, you always need to be creating it from the perspective of the person that's searching. And if you're doing live video content, then you need to also discuss topics that are open-ended, not closed-ended, which means if I ask you, is it cold or hot outside? I only gave you 2 options to respond of it being this or that. And so you'll probably pick whichever it's kind of closest to or what you think. Whereas if I say, do you think it's comfortable outside? That is more open to your interpretation to respond however you want. So when we're talking about YouTube live streams, if you're asking them a question, make it something that is, it has some curiosity around it. It makes them want to, kind of engage with it. So not saying, is this tire better than this one kind of question. Let's say a new model came out. a new model RV. I don't know why I keep going back to this RV example.
You want to
But
travel.
yeah, right. I'm ready to hit the road. And so, like, if that's your business and a new RV just got announced, it kind of hits on all the things that most of your customers say that they want. I would say let's discuss the new model X, Y, and Z and how it compares to X and X, most popular models. That's something that they're interested in covering that conversation because that's a question circling around in their brain. So strategies are very easy when it comes to creating content on YouTube simply because it's always from the perspective of the person that's searching. And then you, the creator, you're just being and putting yourself in the position to show up for that.
Fantastic. So I want to thank Diana for joining us for episode 33 of the Launch Your Life podcast. So Diana, what's the best place if people want to get in touch with you? They have questions. They want to learn about RVs maybe a little bit because I picked up on that as well. So what's the best place for people to connect with you?
You can go to dianagladney.com. You can connect with me there. If you are an Instagrammer, you can hit me up at Diana Gladney. And then, of course, on YouTube, put my name in the search bar and it will come up.
Asking, are there any special projects or anything you're working on right now as well?
The only thing I'm currently working on towards this last quarter of the year, potentially probably working on some type of group membership course or something around those lines, just kind of best serving entrepreneurs when it comes to creating their content. So at best right now, I could just say stay tuned.
Nice.
Okay, definitely. So I want to thank everyone for joining us, as I mentioned, for episode 33 of the Launch Your Life podcast, where we discussed how you can get started with live streaming using YouTube Live with Diana Gladney. For more information, head to launchyour.live/EP33. We'll see you all on a future episode. And remember, if you need help with your live streaming, contact us for a consultation by messaging us on our Facebook page at Launch Your Live. Thanks a lot for joining us. Bye, everyone.